Hey guys, in today's video we're checking out the new IRDX Core plugin by Bogren Digital. And this will be an interesting one, so stick around. So what is IRDX all about? In short, it's a plugin that aims to recreate the dynamic response of real live speakers. So the non-linear response and moving air, basically. And that is something that, according to Bogren Digital, impulse responses lack. According to Bogren Digital, IRs tend to be a little bit static sounding and they lack a little bit of life. And real speakers have more dynamics, which gives them more movement and more life. So you can basically slap IRDX Core on your guitar tracks after your IR loader or amp simulator, and it should make the sound more realistic. Now I do have some thoughts about that concept, but first let's take a listen to how this plugin sounds and take a look at the controls. So I amped some tracks through a real amplifier, and I put an IR loader with an IR on it, and I slapped IRDX Core on the guitar bus. I'll play you the tracks both in a full band mix and isolated, and I'll bypass the plugin in between so you guys can hear the difference and what the IRDX Core adds to the guitar tone. Let's take a listen, check it out. All right, pretty cool. So that was my ESP LTD Phoenix Arctic Metal with the EMG 81 pickup into my ENGL Ironball SE tube amplifier, which was being fed into my RedSeven Amplification Amp Central reactive load. So just to be clear, no real cabinets. This amplifier is going directly into the computer. And in the DAW, I used the Libra IR Loader plugin, in which I loaded my favorite impulse responses for metal, the OwnHammer low-tuned essentials with the high-gain mic mix. Double tracked, so one on the left side and one on the right side. And in terms of processing, the only thing that I did was put a low cut at 80 Hertz. And I used my favorite ML Drums hybrid kit for all the drums, by the way. Sounds awesome. So as you could hear, the effect that the IRDX Core plugin added was on the subtle side. Subtle, but definitely noticeable. And whether it's realistic or not, I thought that it added some nice color to the guitar tracks, and I definitely can see myself using this plugin on my guitars from time to time. You know, to sort of spice up the guitar tracks a little bit whenever I feel like they need something extra. I did notice that the IRDX plugin added a little bit of top and sizzle, which helped to bring the guitars forward a little bit. And I also noticed a little bit of a difference in the dynamics, so I guess there's some compression and or saturation going on. Now, if you want to, you can definitely make the effect a little bit more extreme with the controls. So let's take a look at what the controls are of this plugin. And it's a very simple plugin, so it's very easy to use. Now, the large dial lets you tweak the amount of IRDX that you're adding to the signal. 100 is the default setting, and it's basically the most natural and normal response, but you can crank it up for a more pronounced effect all the way up to 150. And I do like how they let you dial in the desired amount. At the bottom, there is a switch for the two modes, normal and intense. With the intense mode, the effect definitely is a bit more extreme. And when you crank it up all the way, so to 150, you kind of get the feeling that your speakers are about to blow. It basically adds more saturation and more sizzle. Of course, we have in and output meters at the bottom, with the calibration control as well. And that basically lets the plugin analyze the signal and adjust the input levels accordingly so that the effect is applied in the proper manner. Okay, to give you an idea of how the controls react and how the controls affect the tone, I'm going to play the guitars isolated and then play around with the controls a little bit so you guys can really hear what it does. Check it out. All right, so that should give you a pretty good idea of what this plugin does. So what are my thoughts on the plugin? Well, first of all, and in my opinion, most importantly of all, I think it sounds good and I like what it adds to my guitar tracks. And I can definitely see myself using it from time to time to spice up some guitar tracks that need a little bit of extra life. So tracks that might need a little bit more excitement or tracks that need to be brought forward a little bit. It's great for that. Again, it's subtle, but the effect definitely is noticeable and I like it. And for the price, it's basically a no-brainer, so I definitely recommend checking it out. Now, in terms of how realistic the effect is when it comes to modeling the real behavior, the dynamic behavior of real speakers, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Now, again, as long as the effect is nice and as long as it adds something good to the guitars, it doesn't really matter. In the past, I've done some real-life tests with miking up cabinets and comparing the sound of a sort of low volume cabinet to the sound of a high volume cabinet. And in those tests, I found that the response of speakers tends to be quite sort of flat and linear and stiff. I didn't notice a big difference between speakers at low volumes versus the speakers at very high volumes. I've also heard many comparisons of real cabinets versus IRs that were shot of those setups. And in those cases, I never really hear the differences that I'm hearing here with the IRDX plugin. And usually when you crank up your amplifier really loud, the thing that the amplifier tends to do is that it tends to get a little bit darker because of the power amp saturation and or speaker distortion. But in my honest opinion, I've never experienced speaker distortion as a pleasant thing, to be honest. Now, having said all of that, I still think that it's a great plugin. And again, I like what it does, and I recommend checking it out. I don't think that normal IRs are unrealistic or lacking when it comes to the realism, though. But perhaps that's another discussion that I've had plenty of times in the past, to be honest. So yeah, the IRDX Core plugin by Bogren Digital. I like it, and I recommend checking it out. I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks to the kind folks at Bogren Digital for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate it. So this video was sponsored, but as always, all thoughts and opinions are 100% my own. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it useful. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like and subscribe down below, as that really helps the channel out. I hugely appreciate it. And of course, you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers!